Okay, we are continuing to add folks so that you know, I'm really honored that you are from all over the world. Some of you I know, some of you I don't know. I'll introduce myself in a minute to you. This is being recorded, but is exclusively for the Most Magical Secret group members, which is how you got here, or alternatively, you're friends with Anthony Jacquin, and we connected that way. Obviously, we've got some guest speakers on here today, and I will introduce them and how that is working. Some of you I know are up very late. Some of you, it's 2 o'clock in the morning where you are in your parts of the world, so thank you for being here. Logistically, I have most of you on mute. That's simply because if you will put your monitor, if you're not on the phone, if you put your monitor in gallery view, you'll be able to see everybody. If you put Zoom into speaker mode, then whoever is speaking at any given time. So right now, if you're in gallery view, you'll see the little green box around me. If you're in speaker mode, you will only see me. When our guest speakers are talking, you will only see them. If you go into speaker mode, you won't get to see the group of you. I'm going to keep it in gallery view so that I can see you and monitor the chat room if needed. Because you're on mute, if you want to ask a question of anybody, we're going to cover a wide range of topics today in the 2 hours. Stick them in the chat room and I will look down there and take a look at them and then pass those along to our guests. This is informal. So again, this is for you folks. For those of you who I have not met yet, my name is Scott Grossberg. I am the administrator and I guess founder of the Most Magical Secret private Facebook group, which again should be how you got here. It was originally built around one of my books, The Most Magical Secret, and it has grown exponentially. And the idea behind this is to provide you information, training, expertise, and subject matter folks who can help all of us take our businesses and our presentations to the next level. The interesting thing is that all of this was put together a long time before the stay at home, stay safe orders. And what we're starting to see now is that there are tons of Zoom meetings taking place across the world, both from a business standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, and from a performing standpoint. For those of you who are on board, who are entertainers, we're all learning a new skill set. So what I did is I reached out to 3 of my dearest friends who are in the entertainment industry or who have connections with lighting and photography and things like that. And you'll be amazed when I tell you about who they are. And I said, hey, there are tons of how-to videos out in the world right now. Help me filter this down and narrow this down so that these are really valid takeaways for people and that they can instantly implement them. I am in a lot of Zoom meetings, obviously, and I can tell you that most of the people who attend are really suboptimal at what they're doing. And I'm sorry, but I have I have a firm belief that how you do anything is how you do everything. And that goes towards your presentation skills online as well. So again, the whole concept of what we're going to be chatting about here is take these little steps, take the ones that work for you. We're going to provide you with input from a wide variety, paid and free options, and start asking, how can I put these to work immediately? How can I light myself better? How can I script myself better? How do I create rapport? How do I talk to somebody if I'm a performer and I'm used to street busking? Because I get this question all the time. How do I put a performance forward that requires audience connection, and we're separated now by ones and zeros, right? So with your permission, and for lack of, to make sure we stay on track, I'd like to bring on our first presenter. Our first presenter is Jim Morgan, and I've known Jim and I have been friends, my goodness, probably 3 decades. Jim Morgan, I'm gonna read you his bio here. Jim learned the ins and outs of photography in a rather odd way, and that was processing crime scenes and work in surveillances. Combined with his passion for travel, and by the way, if you need an expert on travel, this is the man. Combined with his passion for travel, Jim has taken still and video images from around the world. His work has been the foundation of numerous commercial, educational, and advertisement projects, and he's also has published work through Adobe Stock Images. Whether you want to create your online image for a new brand, or you just want to have a more relaxed and comfortable, personable look to share with friends, I've asked Jim to come on and share with you simple ways to help craft your image to reflect who you are. And with that, Jim Morgan, I turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Scott. And thank you, everybody, for spending your Sunday with me. I'd like to jump into this real quick overview of what I like to talk about. And it's basically the concept of getting the image from your camera out to the internet. So we're going to do that by looking at three separate concepts, if you will. We'll look at the cameras themselves, we'll look at some lighting aspects, and we'll look at how to put those things together. All the information we're going to talk about is actually going to be offered at the end of the presentation in a PDF form, so don't worry about trying to take a bunch of notes or anything. It's all in there. Plus, there's an email contact in there. If you have any questions at all, feel free to contact me at any time. I'm just more than willing to help with this. This is a passion for me, and I just love sharing that information. So without any further ado, let me get into this with the understanding that there's two different sides of any spectrum. You have the high-end, high capacity, super cool, and you have the, I don't have a lot of money, I don't have a lot of expertise, I don't know anything about it, how do I make it work? So we're gonna try and fill in from both ends and give you something that can work tonight if you just take a little bit of time and play around with some of the things you may already have in your home. So start with, let's talk about cameras real quick. There's all kinds of different material out there, all kinds of different cameras out there. I like to focus on categories of cameras, not so much brands or specific models, if that's okay with you. First thing to talk about would be a DSL or a digital camera. Nike, Canon, they're all different variations of this, but you actually have a couple of cool features that come with the camera itself. First of all, you have the ability to change lenses on it, so you can change the focal length or what kind of image you get. If you've seen some of the fashion photography, where maybe the subject's in focus, but everything else is kind of blurred out in the back, that's one of the most remarkable things about this type of camera. The ability to actually change lighting, changing filtering, add some special effects, all within the camera before it even gets to your computer, make it a lot easier if you do this kind of stuff up front, and you don't have to worry about the end. Some of the downsides are, it's expensive. If you don't have one of these, you're looking starting at the 450 market, going up to 2,300 and beyond for just good to above average type of cameras in some cases. The connecting process is relatively simple, but again, it can be a little expensive also. You actually can hook cables up to the camera, but you're gonna need a widget in order to connect the cable from the camera to your computer. The widget right now is going for about $130, but that's not the bad part. The bad part is because everyone is doing Zoom meetings now, whether it's a DSL camera or another type of camera, everybody wants this widget and they're out of stock. I've been waiting for mine for 3 weeks, and it looks like, according to Amazon, it may be another 2 weeks before it gets here. So if this is something you're trying to do for tomorrow, it's not gonna work.
Jim, I want to interrupt you for a second. Because obviously, you know, Dean and Ruben and you and me, we've all chatted about different ways to present ourselves and how we should look. I'm starting to notice that in this kind of environment, people are starting to expect this type of look. And one of the questions that I got early on was, if you put a DSLR onto a Zoom meeting, are you going to look too slick?
You're looking for my opinion? I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't think so. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish, though. If it's a Zoom meeting with all your family getting together, yeah, it's not an issue at all. But if you want to either represent your brand or part of a company that has a...
I lost your sound, Jim. Don't you love a show about technology where the technology inevitably does this?
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. So,
so now turn it down just a smidge. Now it's very loud.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Is that 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3?
You got it.
1, 2, 3. Okay. So if it's a home type thing, I wouldn't worry about it. If it's a corporate issue or you're trying to get your brand out there, I think you want to invest in the best quality material you can to put your best foot forward.
Okay.
I'm a big advocate for having that kind of relationship with your equipment, which represents you going out into the world. The next thing you can do, a little less on the costly side, but still high quality imagery, is something like a GoPro or one of the other type of sport type cameras. Up to 4K, which is high quality video, can actually push through in Zoom meetings, so you have that capability. There's some filtering capabilities in here that you can do. The downside is, though, you need that widget again. So in order to go from the camera to the computer, it's not the same widget, it's a different version of it, but it's the same idea. You have to transpose the coding from the camera before it gets to the computer. So again, it's another $140, some in that ballpark, maybe a little less depending on where you get it from, but it's one more thing you have to do, one more cost you have to incur. Plus now it's another delay in receiving that information or that piece because of where we're at. The next thing that you've probably seen in one form or another would be something as simple as just a webcam. This wall cam is probably 15 years old. When computers started to integrate cameras, this is something you could add on to give a camera to your old computer. Now with laptops, they're usually built into it. So this is actually more of an easier system to use. They're usually built in, so the software's there. It's kind of like a click the button and go type of feature that's really good. Some of the lighting capabilities in the newer cameras are actually fairly decent. However, you usually have a very narrow or fixed field of view, which means you only see about this much. And it means that your motion in it, your ability to move, especially if you're trying to do an audition or perform or something, you're gonna have a very restricted field of view.
And you're getting this wide.
Which may be a downside.
I didn't touch it.
Are we okay?
We are.
Okay.
I can mute. I can mute on my end. The power of technology.
So this brings me to the last offering that I have for you. It's actually, I think, one of the best that you have, and that's actually using your cell phone. Your cell phone, if you already have any kind of smartphone that has a camera in it, 9 times out of 10, you'll be able to adapt an app on the phone to some kind of program on your computer and make those things work. In fact, the camera that I'm shooting with right now is an iPhone. It's going wirelessly through Bluetooth right into, or rather Wi-Fi, right into the system, and you're seeing it. So
now, I've got to tell you, when Jim and I were first putting all of this together, I was actually shocked to learn that your iPhone has a better camera than your laptop does.
Yep. Yes, you're using the primary camera going forward. You'll have a lot more clarity, especially on the newer ones, so you can actually change some of the settings to actually get almost like an HDI type of image out of it. So it's a really easy thing to do. But more importantly, as you'll see in a second, I can now take this camera and do different things with it. So if I needed to do a demo or something like that, I can just basically tilt the camera down and do it. If I need to walk around in the room or show you things, I can do that. If I'm a performer and I need to do something where I have a lot of motion, I can set this up further away from where I'm at and then have the luxury of freedom of movement. The other thing I like about this is it allows me to not have to be so tight. If I were working off my laptop and the laptop was where it was supposed to be, my hands would be up here trying to manipulate the keys, and it's just very awkward kind of setup.
Yeah, you guys can't see that's exactly the setup that I have right now, which is, I purposely am doing this because of what I need to control, but it's very constrained for me.
So this gives you a lot more relaxed type of feeling to work with. So if I may, I'd like to, and you'll see on the handout, there's some free software out there that you can download for your computer and for your apps. The app for the phone comes in a free version or a paid version. The paid version I'm using right now was about $7, and it gives you a couple more features, and just seems to be working very well. Truth in advertising, I've had this for about 3 weeks, running it a lot, and have not had a problem. Scott loaded it and had some issues. We're both using Macs, maybe different generations, but Mac and PC is a problem. So before you download any software or buy any software, confirm it's going to work with your system and what you need to do. The other thing to be worried about or concerned about is what platform are you using for going out to the internet? If you're doing Zoom meetings or some Microsoft program or other third-party systems, they all have their own proprietary coding in there. So you want to make sure that whatever you're going to spend the money on is going to support those systems. So that's a very important aspect to be mindful of.
Yeah, Jim, I want to interrupt you 1 second because you mentioned a handout, and I haven't mentioned that to anybody yet. the handout that Jim put together is multi-pages, and I will post that in the Most Magical Secret group for you as a download once we're done here. So you don't need it right now. It will be available to everybody.
So one last thing, that the advantage of having the phone, like I said, is that you can move around with it. That can be a blessing and that can be a curse. When you're done, go online and Google embarrassing webcam meetings. And you'll see all kinds of outrageous things that have popped up because people forgot to turn the camera off when they went to the bathroom, or were answering the door, or doing whatever. Or, you know, they're wearing a buttoned up shirt, and then when they leave, you can see they're in their pajamas or something. So you want to make sure that you monitor and maintain the camera in one spot if you have to leave. The other thing, going back to my prior life with law enforcement, I want to ask you, please, 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 when you do anything on the internet with video, never advertise you're going to be away from home. Don't get all excited about as part of your prep up. I'm going to the conference next week and boo-hoo and that kind of stuff, because there's people taking notes. And you're not going to be home that next week? Okay, we'll come visit your home next week. The other thing is, when you do these things, we'll talk about setting and placement in a second, create one environment that becomes you. It becomes representative of you. This becomes your brand almost, is the image that people see. I'd like to really encourage you to do that and not just hop around the house. You'll see on TV sometimes, or different places on the internet, people are almost like trying to show off their house. So one minute they're in the bedroom, next minute in the kitchen, next minute they're in the den. What you're doing is you're giving information about the inside of your house, and people again are taking notes going, oh, I would like to have that painting. And now when they know that you're not gonna be home next week, you've just invited things, bad things to happen. So this can be a blessing and a curse. If you use it smartly, it can be a really wonderful experience for you. So please don't advertise ahead of time. So moving into the next concept here, let's talk about placement and camera placement, and why this ties right into lighting. First of all, when you're looking at what people see behind me, is I want them to kind of like ignore this more and just spend more time looking at me. So the more I have back here that becomes a distraction, the more I'm losing them, especially in the first couple of minutes when it may be important for me to get that key information out, or to buy them, get them drawn into what I'm saying. If they're not paying attention to me and they click and go someplace else, I've lost that contact. So we really want to stress this point of having as clean and empty background as possible. Now, there's a caveat to this, and that is, because of the shape of my room, it's a 12-foot long, 10-foot wide space. I cannot, because of the way everything's organized, you'll see in a second, I can't use the length, or the length of my room the way I'd like to. I'd like to have something set up here and have this kind of like fade in the background. It'd be great if I had like an entire wall of books that just kind of like blends in the background. You notice if you watch the morning news and the newscasters are doing the shows from the home, shooting into the corner of a room with bookcases on either side is like one of the most popular images you're seeing right now, because everybody sees it, they kind of look at it and it just kind of falls off. What you don't want is the camera to be able to see your books. So now they're like, oh, he's reading Tom Clancy and this and that. Just now it becomes more interesting about what you're reading than what you're saying. So the bookcases and things like that become like a wallpaper if they're far enough back and you have everything else buttoned down. But if you have a lot of distracting things, or things are constantly changing, stuff like that, it becomes an issue. In fact, my wife and I were talking about this the other day. Our Channel 2 newscaster, who broadcasts from her home in New York, had a pillow on a chair that looked like somebody sat in and crunched the pillow. And apparently she got tons of email asking her to fluff the pillow before the show next day. I mean, that's how people start picking things in the background. So the more you can keep the background clean and simple, the better it is.
By the way, I want a quick comment on this. I have actually, after having done these kinds of events, I've had authors write me and ask me why their book isn't behind me, because that they're spending more time looking back here.
Yeah, they're searching. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing is, from a branding standpoint, okay, I encourage you, again, we're going to have one space, one idea, one image that we're going to send out. What can I do that has something that resonates about me, or tells you almost subliminally something about me? So you could do something as simple as, you know, we got the piece of art behind me. I have the sculpture over here on the left, but what if this was a show where my image is going to be all about photography? So this kind of like disappears, and now out comes the camera, and that just becomes, that's part of me, that's part of my logo, that's my statement. Or if I'm into counseling, all of a sudden I'm going to take my little image over here, and now that becomes the piece that everybody sees and everybody starts resonating with. So you get the idea that you just want to find a way of finding something to cue into the background or side. I like things like this better than putting a banner on the bottom of the image. I think this is a much more memorable way, and it's a more personal way of doing it. I just think that's a cool way of having your branding set up. Cameras. I will tell you right now, for me, one of the things that just, it's like fingernails on a chalkboard, are when people have the laptop that they're using. God love it. I use laptops a lot, but the laptop is on the desk and they're looking like this. Okay, so what's the meeting all about? I don't know, what's going on. So this is like one of the most unflattering positions to talk, and it's one of the most distracting things to do. In fact, my brother, who I love very much, tells me I have a face for radio. So I have to do a lot of things to try and balance out that image so that people can actually watch when I talk. So let's talk about some of the things we can do here.
Jim, really quick, what's even worse is when they have that image and then the fan is going.
Oh yeah,
that
or
even
the lights
drives me
on or
more
something
nuts.
else. Yeah, it's just crazy. So let's talk about placement. Again, we want something solid behind us that's not distracting, but we're also talking about how we can use lighting to the best of our advantage. And that's all part of this placement thing. So the best lighting you can get is going to be natural lighting coming in from a window. It's the best light you can find. It's usually soft, pure, unless it just, the sun just beating on the window. But you're going to notice that it may not always work. I mentioned the way my room's set up. If I turn and face the window, you can see that the light is a little bit more even on my face, but look what's behind me. You're seeing the reflection on my bookcase of the windows, plus you're seeing all the cameras and all the other junk I have over here on my camera and the reflection. So this becomes a real distraction. It's not something I really want to do. So I'm going to find, if I turn around the other way, then you're seeing the windows, and now I'm all washed out. You really can't see my face very well. So we want to make sure that when we do this, we find a way of balancing everything out so that we don't have a lot of distractions and we have a lot of continuity there. So that's a key component of what we're going to try and accomplish. When we do this, when we set this up, we also get this back set up. What I want to do is I want to have a uniform appearance. So as I do this, I want to have a consistent frame image, if you will. I want the top of my head to be in frame or maybe just slightly out of frame. Shoulders to be definitely inside the frame, but maybe the size of your hands on either side. What I see a lot of is people start out like this, they're leaning into the camera. It's a good position. It stretches out your face. You have good eye contact with the camera. You're doing your presentation. And then as somebody else talks later on, they start sitting back and crunching down. Just this becomes their position doing the meeting. This is not the image you want. The minute you're in front of the camera, even if you're watching or if you're listening or presenting, you're still on camera. So the entire time this presentation's on, you want to have marks. I actually have little spots here. The little line in the center here is where my center spot is. My hands are preset at the edge of my keyboard, which allows my arms to be set. So everything basically is just pre-molded so that when I get in this position, every time I sit in my chair, it's going to have the same look to it. So let's talk about some of the other things that we need in getting our image together, and it's going to be the lighting. Lighting is the #1 thing that you can add or subtract to make your image better or worse. The normal rule of thumb is that the more light you have, the better it's going to be, provided you can diffuse it, control it, and manage it. So those are some of the restrictions we have. As you can see, probably from the background, we've got several different light sources on. We're doing several different things. What I want to do is kind of break it all down and start from the beginning and kind of show you how we built this up and some of the things that we're using. Also in the handout, you'll see some examples of lighting and web pages where you can pick things up. It's just a concept. There's no right or wrong product as far as I'm concerned. Everybody has their own different needs, price points, that type of thing. So all it is just to give you an idea of some of the things that are out there and how some of the people are using some of these things, okay? So before we do anything else, I just want to start and we're going to darken the set, okay? Now from here, I don't know if you can really see, but all of a sudden I've got all these ugly shadows on my face. And that's probably the biggest reason why lighting is so advantageous. The other thing is, if I was doing portrait work, we're starting to get into something called Da Vinci look, where you have lighting coming in from one side, and it casts shadows onto the other side of your face. And this little arrow element here is one of the key things that portrait photographers like to use. That's not good in video photography, especially for online things, because you're moving. So the minute you're moving, the shadows are constantly moving and you're accenting all the things that you really don't want to accent. So the first thing you want to do is you want to start getting light that's coming straight on. You want to have your main source of light behind your camera facing straight towards you. If you can't do that for logistic reasons or whatever, you want to have about a 30-degree cant either side where that light's going to be coming in. But if it's too far off to the side, you really start accenting the brightness over here and the shadows over here, which are going to be a bad thing. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some of the lights that I'm using and then how we set them up, okay? Excuse me. There's a couple different variations of lights. One of the most popular ones that's out there right now is called a ring light. I have a really cool, really small ring light. This is something that'll go on your iPhone. It's just to get a dramatization of what happens. The camera would actually fit right behind it so that it's centered in the light. This is originally started after doing portrait work, but it's been adopted by a lot of people as a relatively inexpensive way to get uniform light on your face. One of the things I want you to be aware of is that sometimes when you put these on, you're going to notice that everything else starts like pulsating. And that's because the frequency that the light is emitted isn't set up to match the frequency or the speed that the camera is using. So you want to spend a little bit of time of looking at what the numbers are on the camera and then do some research online if anybody's had problems using that light for the purpose that you want to use it in. Again, you want to also double check the source you're using, like Zoom or whatever, because that has filtration in it also that may affect some of the lighting concepts here. The next light is basically, it's just an LED, well, right here. It's just an LED section. So this is basically just a battery operated LED light. And just by pushing the button, I can kick on the light and get it going. I can ramp it up and I can bring it back down. Now, if I'm here messing with the light and my chair's over there, I don't know how I'm gonna really make sure I have the correct amount of light on it. So there's a way of cheating, and our cheating is done this way. Basically put a piece of paper on your chair and you start at the highest level and then start going down. And what I'm trying to do is see if I can get the shadow on the wall dimmed down a little bit and see just a light hue on that paper. I don't want to see too many shadows, but you can see the shadow a little bit on the page as opposed to when it's up like this. Now we've got a lot of shadow. That's telling me I'm going to get a lot of bounce back when I stand in front of the video or stand in front of the camera. So I'm going to tone this down a little bit, and I'm going to use my next light to filter in. So my next light is basically just a standard paper wrapped Japanese imitation lamp, which comes from IKEA. The cool thing about this is it uses a remote pod to turn it on and to control the brightness and the hue or the color of the light bulb. So without doing anything really fancy, I can now sit at my desk. I have my primary white light on. And now I can start changing the hue and make this a little bit brighter to start filling in that shadow area that you're seeing. So the shadow's coming in here, light's coming in to fill it, everything's looking good. What's one of the things I'm missing in the background though is I don't want to see a lot of shadow type effect on the back. So I'm going to put in counter lights on the backside. And one of the weirdest things I've ever seen, but it works out pretty cool, is just, it's a weird flashlight. And the flashlight goes down underneath and backlight's on the wall. So now I've got balance light coming from the side, balance light coming from the back, backlight to take care of some of the shadows, and then I don't need that anymore. So
Jim,
that's a real quick way of how to set this up.
Jim, real
A
quick.
lot of things
Can
you do in photography that probably don't work with video. And a lot of it's because you're moving around so much. If I'm taking stills on working, usually if you look at anybody doing portrait work, the light focus is usually very, very tight for any kind of portrait work. Here, I need a little more space to be lit up properly. So having more of this ambient light that kind of overlaps is one way of doing that.
Jim, can you hear me?
Okay, here we go.
He cannot.
Wrapping this up, a couple little things about placement and presentation. It goes without saying, you're representing yourself, so you want to make sure that everything's clean. Fingernails are clean. You're using your hands a lot, so make sure that all these things are that people would be focusing on there. Don't wear a lot of jewelry. A watch like this is insane on a video. If the light catches it, you get some flare, and it just has a tendency to make a noise and get clunky. So I would never wear just a lot of jewelry when I'm doing presentations. When you're putting your, everything's all done, we've looked at it, now we're looking at the image to make sure it works well. If you're doing Zoom, you can actually log into Zoom ahead of time, click on, here we go. Let me see if I can do it this way. Okay. Bear with me, guys. Also put the ears back in. Okay, can you see the screen?
There you are.
Okay, here we go. I apologize for the.
That's all right.
Scott, I can't get to my.
It's showing your home page with Lowe's on.
Yeah, I can't get to the Zoom benefits element. Let me explain to you this way, and you can walk through it later. If you go through up into preferences in Zoom, you can do it this way. Oh, cool. There we go. Go into preferences in Zoom. In general, video. Here we go. Video. Here, just to show you the difference, this is my cell phone camera. And that's my laptop. So you can see that the depth, the color, everything else is just a little more kind of washed out. When we go to the cell phone, you have a lot more clarity, a lot more distinction, maybe too much distinction, I don't know, but that's one way of fixing it. Some tricks in Zoom real quick. Go down here on my video, click enable high def or HD. Okay. The next thing is go down here and touch up my appearances. Please, I can use all the help I can get. Click that and it softens your image just slightly. The other thing I really want to encourage you guys to test is in here it says mirror my video. And it's something used for some presentations, blah, blah, blah. But if you're doing presentations on Zoom, the minute you go mirror my video, anything you offer can't be seen. It's all backwards. So you want to make sure that this is clicked off so that you can read this. So it's another setting that is real important for putting your stuff together. Okay.
So Jim, I have a quick question for you.
Yes.
Actually, there are some other questions, but I have a question for you.
Yes.
The floor light, because I'm a big fan of backlighting. It's my theater and film background. I'm a big believer in the environment and backlighting, and I'm doing different things. You're doing different things. That the floor flashlight fascinates the hell out of me. Can you turn it off for a minute and turn it back on so that folks can see what a small subtlety this really is?
Watch.
Lighting your background.
Watch over here. Yeah.
I mean, from an artistic eye, at least, you see the difference. That this is huge. Just that small little subtlety, and it's a flashlight. And I know a lot of folks are talking online about, 3-camera lighting and all this fancy stuff. And the reality is you don't need, that's the whole point of today. You don't need fancy stuff, which brings us to the next question, Jim. Nicole had asked, what about standing lights or visible lamps? Are those too bright or is there too much glare? Now, I want to answer real quick, well, before Jim does, Nicole, what you're seeing with me right now is it's all LED lighting. My room, my office is all LED lit from above, top lit. And my front lighting, in addition to the ring light, I'm using Hue, H-U-E, which were the original people with the LEDs. and I am using something called a hue bloom in front of the camera, or behind it, I guess for you, behind the camera, that is fully adjustable. Those for me tend to take a lot of the glare out. And by the way, if you wear glasses, you will notice I keep my head tilted down. Once I bring it up, do you see what happens? You need to start being very cognizant of that's just a distraction, and quite frankly, it looks like something out of The Exorcist.
Some people will put their glasses on an angle slightly down to keep the light reflecting down. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, Jim. What's your thoughts on the standing lights or visible lamps and brightness and glare?
They're good. My only concern would be if you can't control it. Like the example I have over here, you can start seeing to me that's a little too bright. But I don't, on that particular lamp, I don't have control to dim it. It's just on the one over here at demo. So I'd love to have it there and dampen it down a little bit, but any light that just is obnoxious will do two things. First of all, it becomes a distraction to the image, but also, depending upon the type of camera you have, the light metering will read the image from the light source and actually start closing things down, so now you become darker. So if you want to have, you're the subject of the image, so you want to make sure that you are lit properly and everything else is secondary to that.
Wonderful.
Okay, a couple more things go ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
A couple more things real quick is what do you wear? I don't know if you've ever noticed it, but there are some things, some fabrics out there which are death on video. I would never wear them on video. One of them is just colors. Some colors just like, oh my God, they just get blown out. So reds, really bright oranges and yellows on video can be really a distraction to what's going on. So please, 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 please don't do that. The other thing is prints. Because of the lines, the graph type images that the metering system uses, it actually interprets information in between the meter, and it can't get all of it. So in other words, it's not seeing everything, it's just kind of pretending it sees and fills in the blanks. So when you have things like stripes, as you move it around, you can see it has kind of a weird effect on the camera. And depending upon the resolution of the camera, the resolution on your screen, and the information going back and forth, this can be really obnoxious. Some herringbone and other things just look really awful. So no stripes, any kind of pattern like that really is not good. And the last thing is just kind of like a common sense thing. It's all about brand, obviously, but you want the brand to be respectful if it's a business thing, or you just don't want it to be distracting. So, breaking out the old Hawaiian shirt and wearing that could really be a problem. So we want to make sure that we have an understanding that it's a business setting, so it'd be business attire, what you're going to wear.
Wonderful. Well, first of all, let's give Jim a hand. So thank you. I want to add one little tip, by the way, and Jim and I and Dean and Ruben were joking about it beforehand. It is one of the greatest little hacks that I'm not using, but I really am drinking coffee, and I wanted this to be a coffee kind of meeting. The reality, though, is it was the greatest hack that I saw, and that's if you want to put something else in your coffee mug and you really don't want to advertise it, you take a tea bag and you cut the tag off, and then you tape the tag inside the lip so that the tag for the tea bag is hanging down. You can put whatever you want in here and nobody will know the difference. It looks like you're drinking tea. So for those of you from the UK who want to have afternoon tea with the Queen, nobody will know the difference. Let's see here. Somebody asked, oh, Eva, it's you. Hi. What does the hue light, where does the hue light go? It depends on at least the way I use it. Let me see if I can reach here. This is the hue bloom, and I'm not going to blind you with it. It's freestanding. It's not in the ceiling, and you can set it anywhere. I actually have it placed on top of a candlestick pedestal at the moment, and I can adjust. I'm not going to do it at the moment, but I can adjust colors, density. It's really quite amazing. You can set it to flicker like a candlestick or a fireplace, depending on whether you're using it behind you or in front of you. In the ceiling, we have a smart home, so it's got hue lighting throughout the house, and you literally play with it on your phone. It's an app. So it can be placed anywhere you want, and it's not different than what Jim is telling you about. It's just the way I like LED lighting. That's really what it is. By the way, I don't think it's available anymore, but I'll throw it out in case it is. I haven't used it in quite a while. There used to be at least 2 apps, one for your phone, one for your iPad, at least 2 apps that allowed you to use them as lighting as well. They were white lights, primarily for close-up photography, but you can use them for that as well. You put your cell phone or your iPad on the other side, and it's a giant white screen. You put it up on its highest density and it shines the same way. Okay. So Nicole, I didn't, until the end of the video. Oh, I get it. Sorry. And yeah, with the little tea bag. Dean can fix that. He'll be going last. All right, let me bring up our next presenter, Ruben Padilla. Again, I've known Ruben, I've known all these guys for years. Ruben's been a public speaker since he was a wee lad at the age of 11. As a matter of fact, he loves to speak, and I've got to tell you, each one of these gentlemen, I have personally used in a professional commercial branding setting. So I know they know what they're talking about. And just as a quick aside for Ruben, Ruben is solely responsible for a number of the taglines that I use. If you go to my website or you go to my Facebook page, Ruben wrote those, and he's really that good. Jim has set up a lot of my lighting and photography stuff, and Dean I'll get to when we get to Dean, because he's the voice of Scott Grossberg. Ruben Padilla, been a public speaker since he was 11. He's an author, comedian, and magician. He is also a screenwriter. He has been very modest in not telling you about his film. He is the creator of the San Diego speaking system. The San Diego speaking system combines Hollywood storytelling and corporate sales techniques with 40+ years of front of the room experience. His company, Narrative Strategies, helps you to tell your story, make people care, and speak louder than words. Ruben's given us actually something very special, and we chatted a lot about whether he should do it, and he's agreed to do it. He's giving you his book for free, the 25 Secrets of Success, pardon me, the 25 Secrets of Successful Speaking at no cost. And you can get it at narrativestrategies.com. That was also that link put into your registration link, and I will put it again in our Facebook page. But Ruben is like a library of public speaking. So with that, Ruben, thank you for being here. See, I thought he was joking. He really is turned off. Okay. Ruben, no sound. We actually tested all of this beforehand. No sound. You're not on mute.
Scott, I was on a call like this yesterday, and the person had to log out and log them all back in for them to get reconnected.
Got it.
That might have to happen.
So Ruben, why don't you log out and log back in again? And I'm going to give you a second to do that. Let me explain what Ruben's going to be chatting with you with, so that you know so that you know where we're going with all this. Jim spoke to you about camera placement, lighting placement. The concept now is that you have the physicality of your room and the theme of your room and the brand of your room set up. The idea is now, how do you create rapport instantly through a camera when you don't have all of the other elements of personal touch available? And I've got to tell you, with my public speaking clients, most of them are not for those of you who do performances or do public speaking, or even in the entertainment industry and production end. I'm not seeing a lot of people starting to commit to anything until November and December. Some of them, by the way, I just got a request for January of next year, because the concept is, okay, that's cool, we open up everything, people are still afraid. And so we've got to be able to be prepared for not only this type of interaction to continue, but for business owners, if you work for someone, to realize this is less expensive. That there are ways for us to create, as business owners, a viable business by staying remote through all this. So let's see, Ruben, you should be back on. Are you there? I see you. No sound. This is, by the way, the best I've heard you.
How's that?
You didn't turn it on, did you?
No,
Now
it
we
was
can hear
on.
you.
It was on. Can you everybody hear me?
Yeah, you're very loud at the moment, so just back off a little.
I was
Very hot.
trying to build suspense,
Oh.
and I think it worked. That's one of the strategies I'm going to be teaching you, how to delay the beginning of your meeting 5 minutes and create tremendous suspense. I was just hoping Scott would continue to talk about me because I sounded great.
You're
Hi,
on.
everybody.
Go for it.
Thank you all for being here. It's true. We were trying to get everything set up before, everything was working, and we are people who have done this before, so I can imagine the scrambling that some of you must do when you've had to set something up for a Zoom meeting, if you've had to already, and if you haven't, and it scares you, then hopefully today we can help you with some tips to make things a little bit easier for you. I spilled a Pepsi, we couldn't get the lighting right, my wife was in here, she's a professional, we were scrambling, and then we try to make it all look completely natural and normal. And it's funny because ever since the pandemic began, I've noticed that adults, anybody who's younger than like 30 years old, if you're a millennial, you are not frequenting meetings like this because you don't need this information. And where did those millennials learn the information to be able to speak so adeptly on online and do it? Well, they learn simply by doing it. I have a 17-year-old son, and it's part of his job description to roll his eyes at everything that I try to do with technology. And if you have any teenage children, then you probably can identify. They have already figured out how to do this, and they've been doing it for years. So to see us scramble to try to get everything just right, and the lighting, and it's funny, when Jim was talking, I know that you were all doing this as well. Every time he gave a tip or a piece of advice, I was grading myself, thinking, oh, I failed in that department. Oh, I got to get one of those. Oh, I didn't do that. And we tend to want the information to help us get better, yet a lot of us aren't even aware that some of these tips and strategies exist. And what I've found is that during this whole pandemic, and I think we're at what, day 50 or something, it seems like it's been years, we are getting better. We're getting better naturally, almost out of necessity. We have FaceTimed our family members. Some of us have spoken to our family on video chat more than we have in the last 10 years over the last month. We complain that we haven't seen anybody. I've seen more of my family on my phone than I have in the entire year of 2019. So we are getting better, but I've noticed that people tend to be separated into two camps when it comes to learning how to present yourself on camera. And it's funny because days before the pandemic began, I launched this system, the San Diego speaking system. I took all of the tips and hacks and tricks that I've used since I was 11 years old to be able to stand up at the front of a room in front of a group of people and be able to hopefully connect, to be able to share who I am, to be able to create interest and to create identification and to create involvement. And days after I launch this thing, the pandemic happens, and suddenly there are no more fronts of rooms. There are no more groups of people. And I thought, well, is it possible to translate some of these strategies to the online world? And I thought that I was being highly original in that concept. And it turns out that everybody started thinking the same thing. And everybody came out of the woodwork with, you know, seminars and workshops and books and free information and YouTube videos and classes on how you can best present yourself online. This, what you're at now is another one of those seminars. And it's interesting because the two camps that I see that have happened since the pandemic began when it comes to presenting yourself, the one camp is be yourself. Just be yourself. Something that our children, the millennials, have been doing since they began appearing online. But the truth is, if we really were ourselves, most of us would be sitting in front of the camera right now in t-shirts with a bunch of Dorito crumbs in front of you. Your hair would not be brushed. I mean, let's be honest. For the last month, we've kind of been hiding out in our pajamas. So being yourself may not be the best strategy. But the other camp, the opposite end of be yourself, seems to be better than yourself. And to be better than yourself creates an almost unattainable standard because it removes you from the equation. If you're trying to be better than yourself, then you're taking yourself out of that category and you're trying to create a standard that may not exist. And if you're not sure which camp you fall into, ask yourself, when it comes to I don't know how many of you wear glasses, but are you the type of person who does not wear glasses because you don't want it to be seen that you are in need of glasses? Or perhaps you don't think it looks very good and you are worried about how you look, so you hide it. And then you suffer because you can't read the notes you've made. Or are you the type of person who doesn't care and will wear the glasses and it doesn't matter if people see the reflection? I don't want you to try to be better than yourself to the point where you are inauthentic and you are no longer being yourself. The best way is kind of a hybrid of being not completely yourself, because otherwise you'd be in your pajamas with Doritos, and not be better than yourself because that removes you from the equation, but instead to be your best self. I know there are a lot of performers online, a lot of artists watching. I'm a performer, as is Scott, and Dean is a performer as well. And a lot of people know this. If you're an artist or you have an artist sensibility, we know that we need to be our best version of ourselves, a heightened version of ourselves. And I'm here to remind you that while you're trying to be a heightened version of yourself, don't go that extra step and be better than yourself to remove yourself from the category, but be your best self. And in order to do that, you need to be aware of many of the strategies that Jim has shown us and Dean is going to show us, a lot of the technical things. And then the other part is to remind yourself of the things that you already know. And the things that you already know are those things that make you, you. For example, I'm kind of silly by nature. I think of myself as funny. I've tried my hand at comedy, and I will often try to say funny, goofy, self-deprecating lines because that's pretty much who I am. Of course, there are some things I don't say because we are in public and I don't want to completely be myself, but I want to be a better, the best version of myself as I can. As it happens, I showered for the first time in a couple weeks. I brushed my hair. So I'm looking better than I probably have in a while due to this Zoom meeting. Becoming your best self will come naturally with comfort and confidence. And comfort and confidence is something you do not have to actively chase because it's already there the more that you do this. The first time you made a Skype call or a Zoom call to somebody you love and you didn't know how to do it, you probably looked like I did at the beginning of this video. The sound isn't working. What do I do? Is it plugged in? And you probably look just like that. But the more you did it, the better you got, to the point where you are now pretty comfortable, I hope, and confident, I hope, in this new reality that we've embarked on and that may be the reality for the next, I don't know how many months. So you're already comfortable and confident in being yourself. And yet it is possible to do too much of that if you're trying to be somebody that you're not. I know somebody who is a very good public speaker in the corporate world, and they're very used to giving speeches in front of rooms of people, and they have a daily practice at doing this sort of thing in the real world. And recently with the pandemic, they decided to go online, and they decided to try their hand at speaking to the camera the way that they did at the front of the room. And when this pandemic began, and I said to myself, I wonder if these narrative strategies that I've used successfully for over 40 years at the front of a room, can they translate online? And the answer, of course, is yes. Of course they can. However, if you weren't aware of certain strategies that made you a better speaker in real life at the front of the room, then you're not going to know them when it comes time to do them in front of the camera. So I'd like to give you a few strategies that will work not only in this new online world, but that will actually work anytime you speak to a group of people and to be effectively. One of them I've been practicing since I began speaking, and that is trying to avoid the very natural habit of looking down at the picture of yourself on the screen, or even looking at other people on the screen to see who is watching and to see, what their faces look like. In a room full of people, I do that constantly. I'm very, very used to looking at the room and looking at different people's faces and gauging their reactions and adjusting in real time. However, online, that looks strange, doesn't it? It just looks weird. What am I looking at? Am I looking across the room? So it's very important to continue to look at the camera. And I've done this for a while, and it's not a natural feeling. I'm looking at that little green light on the top of my computer screen, and I see a row of the participants who are looking at me right now, and then there's a big picture of myself looking at me. As you probably have already discovered, the tendency is to look down at yourself to make sure that you're looking good, or to look at the other people on the screen. Don't do that. It doesn't serve you, and you will make a much better connection if you look directly at the camera. But I know it's difficult to do, and it does take practice, because you are literally denying yourself the information that you would be getting by looking at the screen. If it helps you, and if you are already comfortable speaking in front of a group of people, then you simply have to practice looking at that little green light as if it was a person. If you are not comfortable speaking to a group of people, then you kind of have to trick your mind a little bit. And one of the tricks you can do, which I recommend and I have used, is to take a picture of somebody that you love, take a picture of your son or your daughter or your spouse, and affix it up above the camera. A small picture. It can be a small wallet-sized picture. Take some tape, stick it right next to the camera. Don't cover the camera, obviously, but look at that person and speak only to that one person. Speak to your daughter. Speak to your husband. And that will give you a sense of confidence and comfort, because you're tricking your brain and reminding yourself that you're speaking to somebody you desperately care about and somebody that you wish to impart this information to. Another trick I've done before, there you go.
I love this. I love this hack, by the way.
Oh, thank you. This is something I did a while back because I had to get used to speaking to the camera, and I had spent over 40 years speaking to rooms full of people. You take an index card or a little Post-it note, and I just drew a bunch of faces on it, badly. I think there's one there that doesn't even have any eyes or a mouth. And I stuck it right up here where the camera is. So when I look up at the camera now, I'm seeing, in my mind, a room full of people.
Ruben, hold that up to the camera so they can see. This isn't brain surgery, guys.
See here, there it is.
That's what it is, and that hack alone has changed the way that I process information. And I'm used to appearing in front of a camera, and I never even thought about doing this because, heck, it's my laptop, it's Zoom, it can be very comfortable. And you will notice, those of you who were with me at the beginning of the call heard me say, pardon me, you're going to see me look away because I'm managing the people joining in, I'm managing the chat room. I'm explaining to you why I'm looking away. Otherwise, I'm looking into that little green light and the little postcard up above it. I'm sorry, Ruben, go ahead.
No, not at all. And thank you. Yeah, it's something that I did. Many of the strategies that I developed over the last 40 years are things that are completely original to me because I'm the person that kind of came up with it. And it was only to make myself feel more comfortable. I was gratified to learn that when I shared them with others, people said, oh, well, that will work for me as well. And they've become more universal. There is a lot of information out there from professional speakers, more experienced than me. There's a lot of books and resources and videos that will teach you how to do many things you don't know how to do. I hope that I can contribute to that knowledge, but you should know that a lot of the stuff I'm coming up with is simply my own. I have cultivated and culled from other sources. As Scott mentioned at the beginning, I worked in Hollywood for a while. I was a story analyst for an Academy Award-winning writer and a director, and I would read everything that came across his desk. And these were screenplays that were submitted by top studios and top actors and celebrities who were already attached, people like Brad Pitt and Julia Roberts and Tom Hanks and Kevin Spacey when he was before. And I got to see the best of the best, and I started to see patterns that Hollywood was using to create interest and identification and involvement with an audience, because as you know, billions of dollars are being spent, and it's too easy for people nowadays to turn the channel or switch to some other form of entertainment or not show up at the theater. So a lot of money is made, sometimes formulaically, but often artistically, to be able to capture that attention. And so later, after I left Hollywood, I thought, is it possible to transfer these strategies to the corporate world, specifically corporate sales? But I also found out that in public speaking, I had already been doing this my entire life. So the answer is yes. So the things I'm going to show you today are things that you probably have never heard of before, because I made them up, but they work very, very well for me, and I hope for you as well. One of those things, again, is finding that comfort and the confidence. The comfort and confidence will come from just doing it over and over again. Some of you by now, 50 days into the pandemic, already feel comfortable in front of the camera. You already feel comfortable speaking to your loved ones, or perhaps even strangers, and that's fantastic. But you should know that the mistakes you made in speaking to groups of people live are still going to exist when you're speaking online if you're not aware of them. And so one of those things is the run-on sentence. The person I was speaking about earlier, who spoke to people in front of live rooms, would appear or try to appear more intelligent or more confident or more comfortable than he was. And the way that he did this was to use a run-on sentence where he added transitive words such as where, so, and then, but, you know the words, to keep the sentence going. Somehow, and I've noticed this with other people as well, there seems to be a feeling that as long as you keep talking, and as long as you have something to say, and as long as you don't end the sentence, you can continue to look really smart. And so people never end their sentences, and they keep on talking, but they are aware of what they're saying, and that you get the idea. I could go on and on. Comfort and confidence comes from having the confidence to end a sentence and to risk that silence, to risk that feeling of, oh my gosh, nobody is saying anything. The same thing that happens on a first date, if you can remember back that far to the last time you had a first date. We feel that we need to keep the room filled with our thoughts and our words, or else people are going to think that we are, I don't know, less than we are. And I think it's very positive to allow yourself the room to breathe between sentences, to breathe to gather a thought, to breathe to remember something, and to breathe to invite the interaction that will come from this silence. And if nobody says anything, then I can continue.
Now, I'm gonna interrupt you here, because this is very important for me as someone who facilitates this and presents with large groups, You'll notice at the beginning of this Zoom meeting, I explained to everybody that I had turned all your mics off. And I also explained to you that if you go to meeting view versus gallery view, etc., the screens will pop in and out. It's maddening in a Zoom meeting if people are talking over each other because the screen keeps flipping back and forth, and it's give each other time to interject. And again, just from a time management standpoint, I'm well aware because I'm doing it right now. You can't talk into the screen, into the camera, the way Ruben is explaining, and look down here at the chat room and look over at the participants screen. So be aware that the person who's presenting may in fact not see you, that they are presenting to you and with you, but they're not looking right at you. So take a moment if you're the presenter and decompress, breathe, take a look. I'm looking around, I'm glancing to see if there's anything going on. Really important from a management standpoint. I'm sorry, Ruben, go ahead.
Not at all. Thank you for adding that. You're right. And in fact, if you were in this room with me now, I have a page of notes that's all over here to the side of me. I have my iPhone with the light turned on because the room is kind of dark. I'm very pale and pasty skinned. And because of that, it's very difficult to light me without me looking like a vanilla ice cream cone. So I was taking notes from Jim and mental notes, and I'm in front of a window right now that probably would give me better light. But I have a page of notes over here to my left. I have an iPhone that's shining light onto those notes. I have a bunch of people that I can see are participating on this, and yet I am focusing on continuing to look at that green light in the camera so that I can connect to you. Whether it's a screenplay or a TV show or a book or any type of product that Hollywood produces, there are three main goals in presenting that piece of entertainment to you. And that is, number one, to create interest. We have to keep you interested so that you will continue to hear what we're talking about. Number two, identification. You have to feel on some level that you can identify with the protagonist or the main character, or in this case, me right now, in order for you to continue to want to listen. And finally, involvement. I need to be able to continue to hold your interest, be able to still identify with you so that I can lead you where I want to take you, and that you will be involved either in the form of your attention or making notes or continuing with some other action. Those three I's, as I like to call them, interest, identification, and involvement, are the goal of not only every movie and television show, but I dare say every salesperson, every speaker, every minister at the front of a pulpit, anybody who is trying to communicate information to you, unless it simply is information. I mean, unless it's a weather report, and I'm not knocking meteorologists, but there is a time and place for simply providing information. Sometimes we forget that, and it comes across as simply providing information. So I'm going to give you 4 great strategies that will help you to create interest, identification, and involvement every time you speak, whether online or in front of a group. I've actually identified 6 of them. And these are the only 6 ways that I've found that Hollywood or any type of entertainment or anybody who is aware of these principles can create interest, identification, and involvement. 3 of them I found from a book by Michael Haig back, I think, in the early 90s, from a book called Writing Screenplays That Sell.
And one of my professors.
I'm sorry?
He's one of my professors at American Film Institute.
Oh, yes, yes. Well, he's a wonderful source of knowledge, and I've read a lot of his books. I took one of his seminars back in the early 90s, and I thought, this is fantastic. And he identifies 3 of the things that I'm going to mention to you. And then over the years, I've found 3 other ones. I've desperately looked for a 7th one. I cannot find it. So I'm going to give you 4 today. And the only reason I'm giving you 4, one in the interest of time, but 2 of them really are not advisable in most live settings or online settings. They're not the ones I would recommend. If you want, you can look at my resources later. I do mention the other ones, but the ones that will be most helpful to you, number 1 is my favorite, and it's just something that I do naturally, and you may as well, and that is likability. Likability is something that many of you have naturally, and some of you do not have naturally, but it can be cultivated. And likability is that time in any Hollywood movie or beginning of a TV show where somebody simply appears likable. They're doing something likable. They are lending money to their brother. They're helping an old lady across the street. They are telling a joke. Humor is very likable. Also asking questions and really caring about the other person. So I don't know. It's just one of my strong, I call these, by the way, the legs of rapport. There are 6 legs of rapport. We stand on them at different times. My strongest leg is likability. I do care about people. I do ask a lot of questions. I am particularly funny, I think, my wife tells me. So I can make myself likable using humor and then using some of the skills that our mothers taught us. Look at somebody in the eye, say their names. You know how to be likable. Likability is something that comes naturally for me. It may not come so naturally for you. How do you know this? Well, ask the people who know you best. Ask your family, ask your friends. Say, listen, be honest with me. Am I a likable person? They'll tell you. They'll be very happy to tell you. And if you are not very likable, then maybe it's not your strongest leg, and maybe you shouldn't stand on it. Now, in terms of likability, I'm not just talking about your demeanor. I'm talking about the actual things that you say. It is possible to script out your lines so that you are saying likable lines, lines that are funny, lines that are about the people you are talking about, lines that show that you care, lines that reveal that you're a likable person, talking about going to church on Sunday, talking about helping in the community. I don't mean lying. Some people mistake that. I don't mean lying. I mean being authentic, but showing your best self in its most likable light. The next one is affinity. Affinity are those things that we have in common with other people. They are what brings us together. And Hollywood and movies and television, they've tried to use affinity with characters that are just like us. The everyman. Spencer Tracy was that. Kevin Costner did that later on. Just the good, solid, good person. Sandra Bullock is very likable. Meg Ryan was very likable. Affinity was people who were like us. The blaxploitation movement of the 1970s was really a great example of films that were being made by people who represented the audience. The audience wanted desperately to see people who were like them on screen making the types of entertainment. We identify with Steve Jobs and James Cameron and Guillermo del Toro and Bill Gates. Why? Because we feel that on some level they are like us. They are geeks and nerds, J.J. Abrams, and they create things like us, and they're fanboys just like we are. Affinity is saying those sentences that speak of commonalities between you and your audience. Talking about a local football team or a baseball team, talking about a party affiliation if you are in a political environment, talking about those things that other people will say, either silently or verbally, me too, me too, me too. When I mentioned I had a 17-year-old son, that was a statement of affinity for those of you who are parents. When I picked up my my mug, and some of you noticed that it says Dunder Mifflin from The Office, one of the greatest sitcoms ever. Some of you may have felt some affinity with me there, and oh, he's an Office fan, that's great. Maybe that made me more likable. Again, not only in your demeanor, but in the actual words that you say, if you are somebody to script something out, which I recommend, affinity can be designed. The next one is authority. Authority, I have a love-hate relationship with authority because it is often overused. In fact, when people get up to speak to groups of people in a live setting, they often do it really not knowing what they're doing, but by emulating people that they have seen speak. They think back to, I remember in church, somebody giving this sermon, or I remember my boss giving this seminar, or I've been in classrooms before, and we tend to imitate that which we've seen before. So we have a whole many generations of people who get up in front of live groups and speak by trying to emulate the authoritative figure that they have seen speak in the past. And that comes across as inauthentic if you are not naturally an authoritative person. And so people will use run-on sentences, like I have been demonstrating, or people will use facts and statistics, and they will take the information that they wish to impart, but they will do it in a way that makes it sound like they are smarter than perhaps they are. And they'll use quotations. In live seminars, I often start off with a quotation, and as many people do. And I'll say something like, Henry North Whitehead was a British mathematician, 18th century, and he said it is a completely erroneous truism that we must cultivate the habit of thinking of what we are doing. The precise opposite is the case. Civilization advances by extending the number of important operations that we can perform without thinking of them. And that's a big mouthful of a quote, and I do it on purpose, usually because I'm talking about how people use authority, and I'll break it down. And actually is a quote that I actually do love. Whitehead was saying that we get better at things when we can do things automatically. And many of the things that we do when we're speaking to groups of people are things that we don't do automatically, that we're trying to do. They're affectations. We're thinking about them in the moment, and we don't come across as automatically good speakers. I then call attention to the fact that I used that quotation at the beginning as a form of authority, and people go, oh, I see why he did that. More importantly, I hope that you recognize that in yourself. Every time you cite a source, every time you say something that other people don't know, when Jim was showing the different components and talking about where to get them, that was authority. Nothing wrong with authority. When I was holding up, when I was mentioning things, and I mentioned Michael Haig and I mentioned the Whitehead quote, I was exhibiting authority. Nothing wrong with that. The problem is when we make that the only leg that we stand on. And because people are not aware of the other legs, that by default becomes the one that's most prevalent in most of the speakers that I see. People get in front of the camera or in front of a group, and they'll start spouting information and spouting facts and figures, and they'll speak in a way that is not completely natural, and they'll be a little bit more formal, and they'll use statistics and quotations and blah, blah, blah. I'm repeating myself. If you are not an authoritative person, ask your family, ask your friends. It may not be the best leg for you to stand on. However, if you are naturally authoritative, don't make the mistake of being too authoritative, which is what I often see. The fact that you are speaking in front of the camera, the fact that you are at the front of the room, already makes you an authority. I am already an authority because people are allowing me to speak right now. The camera is on me, and I'm sharing information with you. I don't need the big introduction that we had, although it was very nice. I don't need to give you a bunch of statistics and facts because you already assume that I'm the authority. So be careful with that leg. You can design things to say that are authoritative, but it's naturally the one that people default to accidentally, and I want you to be aware of that.
Ruben, I need to bring this to a close for you because I want to move on to Dean. Can you wrap it up in about 2 minutes?
Yes, sir. The last one is exclusivity. And exclusivity is simply the ways that we are different from everybody else. The fact that I'm a magician and I like The Office and I have a little boy who's now 17 years old, and the fact that if I kept talking, the more that I reveal about myself, the more you will realize I am unlike anybody you've ever met before. And exclusivity is a wonderful leg to stand on. So if you have likability, affinity, authority, and exclusivity, you don't need all of them. You just need to be aware of the ones that you are using. And when you are aware, you can design that into what you say, into how you say it. And please remember that I have 2 other ones that you can find at narrativestrategies.com. there's a free book called The 25 Secrets of Successful Speaking, which gives you little hacks and tricks like this that will not only help you in front of a large group, but help you online as well. And as long as you are aware of what you are doing and you cultivate those strategies, you will get better naturally. But please do it while being your best self, not a better self that you are not naturally. I hope that makes sense. Thank you for having me, and I will continue
Yay,
to
thank
listen.
you. Yay.
Thank you.
Ruben, I got to tell you, I had actually never heard you talking about the not being a better you, but being you, the authentic. I paraphrased it. I love that concept.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna, and by the way, I will give you contact information for everybody here when we're done. That brings us certainly not least, but last, although I will back clean up here. My friend, Dean White. He's a professional voice actor. He does many things, but he's a professional voice actor. You may have heard his voice on radio, on TV, certainly on the web. It is crazy when I go out to lunch with Dean and we're sitting there. We used to go out to lunch, and one of the food servers will come up and say, "Wait a minute, are you that guy?" And then recognize his voice. He's represented in Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, and even in Singapore. Over the past 15 years, his voice has been the voice of confidence in Bank of America. He has been the voice of excitement on Dancing with the Stars. He's been the voice of command in World of Warcraft. He's actually done quite a few very exclusive projects. You can hear a sample of his voice at anythingvo.com. And with that, Dean is going to chat to us about tonality and the use of your voice. And we're certainly not all voice actors, but Dean, thank you for being here. I'm going to turn this over to you.
Thanks, everybody. It's great to be on. Great job, Jim and Ruben. Can I get everybody just to do a little stretch? If you need to, just get some movement going would be, it's always a positive thing. And then I'm gonna have you do one more thing. This is what I do. I put my fist right here on my chin, and you're gonna push your jaw down. So you're gonna push your jaw down, but you're gonna resist it by like doing this. And then you're gonna open your mouth. So push down, but you're gonna hold that jaw in place as you push down with your jaw. When you should feel pressure here, and when you let it go, your mouth should open up easier. Do you guys feel that? Can I see some shaking of heads?
No.
Does that work? And a lot of times when we're about ready to perform, be in front of people, or being on Zoom, our jaw right here starts to tense up. And so it's a muscle, and we can get a massage. We do this kind of stuff. We even massage the back of our neck, but the tension actually comes from right here underneath your ears. And so that's what you do, is you hold it right there, and there you go. Then you relax. Okay, so I have some things for you. I would love if you have within close distance, if you happen to have a wine cork, go ahead and grab it. If you have a wine cork within distance, I mean, I don't want you to go and open a new bottle, though for you, some of you might have a bottle in front of you, but you want to just grab a wine cork if you happen to have one within nearby distance.
Yeah, Dean, since some people got up and left, let's give them a chance to go get their wine, put their little tea bag hanger outside the coffee cup.
Right, exactly.
And come back to us. I wish I had known that tip a while ago. That actually, I mean, I've learned vocal techniques, but you never taught me that one before.
I have a whole
bunch. Feels good.
Yeah, it does. It really opens up your jaw, and you can actually does two things. You can hear better, and you can pronounce better.
Yeah, I like that.
And so yeah, sometimes you're on the mic for hours. And I would go and talk to other guys that have done it longer than I have, and they said, "Oh, you need to use this technique." So, okay, so I have some key things I'd love to share with all of you. You can the first thing, and I'm gonna try to catch us up on a time a little bit. I'm going to give you, oh, first of all, let's do this. What frustrates you when you hear somebody speak? Put it in the chat box if you can. What frustrates you? Is it the movement of the camera? What is it that do you hear people slur words? Is it frustrating that they're might be flat in what they present? I'd love to hear from anything that you guys say. What frustrates you? Yes. Yeah, we have a vocal fry, flat, rambling. People that say or like.
My
All
pet,
these are
my
good.
my pet peeve, by the way, and in my businesses, every employee has been told, do not say to me, my bad. That's not English.
That's the truth. And so we're going to cover some things on taking away the flat. When people, Ruben talked a little bit about this, and so did Jim, just not talking to me. You know, the camera says something, but how do I make it that they feel like they're talking to me directly? Some people stumble or just unclear. So I wrote down some things. You might want to take these notes. It's very short, but these are things that I believe will help you pronounce better and make a better connection with your audience. So we're going to spell an acronym called CAPE, but CAPE is going to be with a K as in kite, not with a C. So imagine if you were going to be the ones presenting, this is the cape you put on, and that's going to help your vocal connection better. So the first one is the K is know your audience. Now, we all heard this. We're presenters. Many of us are in acting already, but it's so important in vocally that we know our audience. I actually have 4 older sisters, and my wife tells me that she knows who I'm talking to just by listening how I talk to them. And they're roughly close to the same age. A couple of them are just a year apart from each other, or 14 months. So know your audience. Let me give you an example. So in voiceover, if I'm talking to somebody who wants to buy a Toyota versus a Lexus, so the Toyota is a younger audience. So my vocal sound needs to sound higher and more excited. If it's Lexus, it needs to sound more refined. And so I'm going to say, even though Lexus would never use the word used car, I'm going to say the blanked used car sale. Okay, so here it goes. The Toyota used car sale. Okay, it goes up. I would never go, the Lexus used car sale. It sounds weird. I would go, the Lexus used car sale. And I would go, the Toyota used car sale. And so I would make one high and the other one flat or more enriched. Same thing, I can't flip it the other way around. I can't go, the Lexus used car sale. It sounds weird. The Lexus used car sale. The Toyota used car sale. Now, of course, this is a little mic. It sounds better, of course, in the studio, but you would get the idea. If you find out that you're going to be speaking to the C-suite, and you know there's going to be more silver hair in the room, don't try to speak as you're speaking to a younger audience. You need to be refined. Hello, my name is Dean White versus, hi everybody, I'm Dean White. Totally different audience. It's extremely important that you know your audience. Okay, second word, so that's the K. The second one is accentuate the first sentence. Now, we do this all the time. We just forget. But accentuate the first word of the sentence. So often, we just will say the sentence. Hi, my name is Dean White. Okay, no, it should be, hi, my name is Dean White. Welcome to this. Once upon a time, accentuate the first word, even if the word is the, of the sentence. So that's extremely important. When you look through what you're going to be speaking on, or even if you're going to introduce yourself and talk about what what you like, and they'll go around, okay, everybody on the Zoom meeting, tell me about who you are and what you like. Hi, my name is Dean White. My favorite ice cream flavor is chocolate. And I'm being over dramatic with it. I don't mean to be that dramatic, but you always want to accentuate the first word of the sentence. Okay, so there's your A. You could say, good morning, anything like that. It takes away the flatness. The P in your CAPE is practice. Now I'm going to go into, after the CAPE thing, I'm going to show you how to practice, but the practice, oh, thank you, Nicole. I'll come right back to that in 1 second. The practice, I would say practice 7 times. I think you get great success with 7. I always tell people practice 6, it's going to suck. Practice 7, you got success. And sure enough, I mean, there's some stuff that I practice many more than 7, but I would say at minimum it is 7. And that it's even as simple as saying good morning, or is it good morning, or is it good morning, or is it, Warren Williams, welcome to Vietnam, good morning. You need to practice 7 times, and I'll show you some things what to do with that too. Let me go back. Nicole had a quick question. She said every sentence, most sentences. And I haven't seen your presentation, but you would have to just listen to it. When you accentuate, I don't want you to accentuate it to its way above in every single line, but we might go, once upon a time, there lived 3 boys. They were all brothers. And so you just want to hit it just a little bit. And then you can tell within you listening to yourself if you have hit it correctly, or if you need to flatten it out a little bit.
Dean, let me jump in here real quick if you don't mind. Nicole, I work a lot with elected officials, and when I talk to them, what Dean has done it so eloquently here, but when I chat with them, what Dean is essentially doing is forcing you to create sound bites that stand alone by themselves, and it makes more sense. So think about it as it's a sound bite.
What we also talk about is that every sentence has a meaning. And so it should have its own weight. Now, I'm not saying that I don't talk like every sentence I hit something. So you just have to really look at the paragraph, but definitely the first word of the paragraph, 100%. The E is emotion leads. And so let me tell you what that means. You remember the honeymooners? Anybody old enough to remember the honeymooners, on TV? And it was, one of these days, Alice, and it wasn't one of these days, Alice, and then the emotion was the last word. No. You want to carry the emotion that you're going to end up with. You need to start it with that. Let me give you another example. I would not do this way. I would not go, have you ever felt frustrated? It doesn't feel authentic. No, I need to go, have you ever felt frustrated? So I start the sentence with the emotion that I'm going towards. And so if you're looking for somebody to like what you're doing, or if you're talking about, have you ever been on a vacation? Well, I just came back from one, but I already started with the have you, with the excitement of where I'm leading them to. If I simply go, have you ever been on a vacation? Well, you just confused people. So think about that. The emotion leads. The emotion leads. And so those are the CAPE. I'm going to jump into any questions within the CAPE.
This is gold. This is gold here, guys. You know, for crafting things. And I know a number of you here, again, are performers. Some of you are readers. This is kind of goes back to some of the things that I've chatted about in other sessions. And that is either have a point or make a point. It's really that simple.
Okay, so anytime, feel free to chat the thing. Now we're going to go into some warm-ups, because this is how you're going to warm up your mouth. And this is really important. You guys are all on mute, so you can just go ahead and dive into it. But the first warm-up is the George Jetson. And it goes like this. Okay, everybody do it. I can't hear you. You might as well, right? You're gonna bubble your lips, and you're gonna go low all the way to high, and then bring it all the way back down. And you should feel your lips actually tingle afterwards. So let's do it. Let's everybody go in there. Get a good breath from your diaphragm, and now the better you get, the more fluid it will be. What's going to happen, as you guys have already done this, and if it did, raise your hand when this happens, you'll go up, and then it kind of like missed an octave or something. And yeah, right? And so you had to practice it over again. And if you keep doing it, then the octave, then you get that in between. So keep practicing it until it goes smooth all the way up and all the way down. What that does is that wakens, you have all these thousands of little muscles in your mouth, and you want to waken those up, because the better that you waken those up, then they work. You know, they say that, you know, a lot of us haven't gotten up for a long time, and that as we sit down, we're supposed to fire our buttocks. I don't know if you know this, but every 15 minutes, you're supposed to fire your buttocks so that when you stand up, you don't strain the lower back. So nobody knows you're doing that, but I do it all the time. So you are, you know, exciting the little muscles in your mouth. So
yeah, Dean, I want to interject one little hack here. Does anyone else, and I'll just tell you, I have a problem doing that. When I was in high school, I did Spanish and French, and I can't roll my R's, and for some reason, I can't just do that. Mm-hmm. And I learned a little hack that if you'll take your 2 forefingers and put them on either side of your mouth, it will force your lips to do that. So it's just a little hack. Go ahead, Dean.
That's great. I never heard that. That's great. Okay. And there you go. Okay, so tongue twisters. Find your favorite one. It could be red leather, yellow leather. This is mine. She stood at the top of the stairs, inexplicably mimicking him hiccuping, amicably welcoming him in. And I even messed it up, so I have to go again. She stood at the top of the stairs, inexplicably mimicking him hiccuping, amicably welcoming him in. Now, I'm not expecting you to memorize that, but I want you to, those that got a cork, I want you to say, she stood at the top of the stairs. Just say it, and now put the cork in your mouth and say the same sentence. He stood at the top of the stairs. He stood at the top of the stairs. He stood at the top of the stairs. And then take it out. She stood at the top of the stairs. It's unbelievable. Over and over again, if you can say what you're going to say, first with a cork in your mouth, and then you take it out, you'll be like 40% clear. So try something, anything. Now, cork is the easiest, but it could be anything at all. I mean, this size. She stood at the top of the stairs. She stood at the top of the stairs. My mouth, my tongue, everything is clear. Has anybody already seen this work? Look at that. Fantastic. This little tool right here, this one cost me lots of thousands of dollars. Okay, that's clarity. Mouth noise. Some of us suffer from mouth noise, just like extra saliva in your mouth. This is the clue, an apple. Okay, green apple is the best, but you just take a piece of apple, chew it down, and it's going to clear up different things in your mouth. Now I'm going to drink it down really quick. Excuse me. But an apple will help with clarity. If you don't have an apple, there's this thing called entertainer's secret. Can you guys see that? Now, one of Scott Grossberg's buddies actually created this, but it works like a charm. I've bought this over and over again ever since Scott told me about it. And it just do a couple sprays and it cleans up your mouth. The other thing is, if you're on stage and you don't have an apple or the entertainer's secret, water does work. What doesn't work, and I'm going to highly tell you to not do this before you speak, is soda. So any type of soda, it actually reduces some different things in your mouth, and it's going to make you sound more, especially close to a mic, more clammy. So stay away from the soda.
Yeah, I'm going to add one more other tip, and Dean and I chatted about it before. I use, because sometimes I will be doing multi-day speaking events where I'm on stage 8 to 10 hours a day for multiple days. And I was actually taught this when I was in the UK, and it's a product I have no investment ownership otherwise in it. It's called Vocal Zone, VOCALZONE. If you don't want to do the spray, this is from France. It actually ships from there. I have no idea what the delay is now in getting it, but they are throat lozenges specifically for speakers, and I was taught this while I was overseas. It's Vocal Zone.
So we have tongue twister. So George Jetson, tongue twisters. You got the jaw relax. You have the cork idea, mouth noise, the apple, the spray, breathing. This is something that's really phenomenal, and I couldn't believe when someone told me this. But if you could take what you are going to read, and if you lay on your back and you read it, it actually engages your solar plexus, and it'll put some more emotion into what you're going to read. So if you lay on your back and just read it, and then you sit down and go to read it, it will engage things that you wouldn't have engaged before. So it's really, really a phenomenal trick. So lay on your back and then simply read your copy. Okay. Let's see, there was, oh, I know one last thing I wanted to share. Ruben touched on it. He called it something different, which I haven't heard before. Oh, he called it the breath. I call it the power of the pause. And so it's the same thing. If I want to really hit a point, I'm going to pause right before it. And it gives, or if I'm going to change from point 1 to point 2, I'm going to have a nice pause. There's the power of the pause. And it gives the audience time to know that something is switching. And so it doesn't have to be a long pause. Ruben said take a breath would be the same thing. Okay, so let me go over what I just talked about. The CAPE, know your audience, accentuate the first word of the sentence, practice 7 times. Emotion leads the sentence. Wherever you're going to end up, start there. Okay, for your practice, warm up. First, we're going to relax the jaw by doing the pressure against. Do the George Jetson if you can. Do a tongue twister. Speak with a cork. Clean up some mouth noise with the apple and the spray. And use the power of pause. Okay, 2 last things. One is the audience always wants you to win. We've heard this. Let's just remember, the audience does. They want you to win. And then the second thing, just for practice, I recommend reading a children's book at night, just out loud. Pick one, open it up, and make it simple and just read it out loud. It's going to put you into a performing place. And not that we're always speaking to kids, but anytime that you want to remember, oh, that's right, once upon a time, you know, da 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 da. You know, kids' books evoke the emotions and those feelings. What questions do you guys have for me?
You guys can use the chat room for this. While we're waiting, if anybody has any questions, and I'll continue to do Q&As. What we've got about 20 minutes left, and I want to share some things with you. I want, Dean, for you to maybe opine on or comment, because I've certainly used you for intros and outros for my podcasts. I have used you for recording for my offices, I mean, for different things. And it's very fascinating. If you guys have never worked with a voice actor before, how many different versions, you know, I'm saying, Dean, I'm into Batman. Give me Batman, right? And yet, even with that instruction, Dean will give me 7 different versions. And it is amazing the difference that the pause makes, the inflection makes, but more importantly, if you're going to be doing Zoom events and you're the host and you're going to brand, personally, I believe, don't do your own intro. Get someone who has that voice of authority, or someone who at least sounds a little different, that they say, hey, look, here are the bookends to this. And I don't know, Dean, I mean, I know you do a lot of this, and it's a little different than doing a commercial. Do you have any thoughts for any of the business owners or performers who are on here as to how best to use outside voice talent to help professionalize their theme or brand?
Yeah, there's a couple great websites. I've known a couple people that are trying to get into the business. They'll do things on Fiverr. So Fiverr, I'll put this in the chat. It's Fiverr, Fiv, Fiverr. And so Fiverr, you can get somebody that'll do your intro for probably $5, $10. And it may not be as clean, but for them, I mean, it could be. I mean, I would test them out and find out what they sound like. But Fiverr, they do for $5. My buddy of mine that's how he started, and now he's doing little jobs all the time. And he says, I got another Fiverr job. And so it's really funny. But Fiverr is a great one. If you want to spend a little more money, and you might want to go to voices.com or voice123. Let me put that in there.
Now you're on both of those, right?
I'm not. They are considered pay and play. And so once you become a SAG carrying card actor, you don't do too many pay and plays, because then your agents get mad at you. But I did get on one called, I used to be on that, so you can still find me on these, voiceovers.com. Voiceovers.com is an agents use it and have ran on it. And so I am currently on voiceovers.com, but you can find me at, a couple of different websites, but anythingvo.com is the easiest one. So you can find people that'll do things on Fiverr, on Voices, and voiceover.com. The one person quickly, Rowan asked, how do you get into voice acting? With everything, you start with taking classes. And so there's a number of voiceover classes. If you happen to be in the LA area, Burbank is phenomenal. That's where all the most voice acting is at. And so you want to take classes from places in Burbank. If you are, Rowan says he's in Scotland. I actually had a job in Scotland recently. That's so funny you say that. So there's a Google phone, I guess there's Google, it's something like, you're listening to Google Music, something like that. So in Scotland, there has to be somebody that you would take classes from. And so just like in all acting, you start with classes, voiceover is the same thing.
By the way, Rowan, I got to tell you, near and dear to my heart, I happen to love Scotland and Edinburgh and all the way up to Loch Ness. It's marvelous. I have to share with you, though, that when I was in a bookstore in Edinburgh, it took a guy from Ireland to explain to me what the guy from Scotland was saying. I say that to you not to be funny, but to understand, I've got a lot of friends across the pond, and as much as I love all of them, it, you know, for the audience, remember Dean was talking about know your audience, understand that if you've got an accent that you didn't have before you did the Zoom, right? You didn't know you had an accent, understand you may have to work on some of the way it sounds so that we can understand it. I don't know how thick the brogue is, but something to think about. I also want to add one thing, and it's very important, I think, for you. So for example, we're recording this and it will be replayed in our group. It's exclusive, to use Ruben's term. But I'm going to put a beginning and end on this. So bear in mind, when you do your Zooms, whether you're performing, and it makes me crazy when I watch these performers out there and they're just sticking up stuff on Facebook Live, or they're sticking stuff up on YouTube, and there's no branding to it. There's nothing that's proprietary about it. And people can, you know, people can download this anytime. So if we know that it's out there digitally, at least make the effort. Show that you care enough to put together a professional package with a good intro and a good outro. And, you know, that's why I use someone like Dean. I want that sound to it. So I didn't know if you had anything more, Dean, that you wanted to add to that.
No, I don't. Any other questions you guys have for me? Was that helpful? Oh, great.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we've got about 10 minutes left. And what I want to do is first, before we get too much further, Jim and Dean and Ruben, make sure you guys are off mute for a moment.
Yeah.
And what I would like to do is I'm going to go around, and Jim, I'm going to start with you, and I know I'm looking at them. Jim, can you hear me?
Here we go.
What's the best way for folks to get a hold of you if they want to go any further or ask any questions?
Jim.morgan at the prepared navigator.com. And it's in the address is in the handout.
Yeah, and again, I will be giving all of you the handout. You will be getting all of that stuff, so you're not going to miss anything. Ruben, best way for folks to get a hold of you?
You can email me at ruben@narrativestrategies.com. And if you just go to narrativestrategies.com, put your email in, tell me where to send the free ebook, you'll get that, and then you'll be kind of in the loop there.
Wonderful. And Dean, you just put in yours, but go ahead and let everybody know, because we're going to be giving this to them in a recorded form as well.
Yeah, you can find me at dean@anythingvo.com. There's a couple other different websites with my information in there, but dean@anythingvo gets you to all the others too.
Wonderful. All right, so in the remaining time, I will still monitor the chat room. I want to give you some of my little tricks, tips, and techniques for putting things like this together in managing a Zoom conversation, quite frankly, managing any presentation that you're going to do, because this does translate across the board. It's completely transferable no matter what avenue that you're in. By way of background, while I was a trial lawyer for over 3 decades, I scripted everything. And that came primarily out of my entertainment training background. I've got a lot of background in screenwriting, directing, and producing both theater and film. And I wanted to find a way to take all of that, everything from storyboarding, everything from you know, script budgeting and producing, all the way up to note taking, to make this as efficient as possible. So I'm just going to throw programs out at you that I'm using so that you can take these and make these as powerful and amazing as possible for you. First and foremost, outlining. What are you doing for outlining? The biggest thing that I encourage folks to do is to brain dump when you're first putting it together. In the writing world, we call it a shitty first draft, right? You want to be able to create a safe place for your writing to come out of your head onto something, whether it's a page or digital, where it's constantly alive, that you can change it. You know, you write this thing and it's constantly evolving. You want to be able to track your stuff. And I am a big believer in what I call thought dumping. You will have heard of it, a variation of it called mind mapping. Colleague of mine, Tony Bazan, invented the concept of mind mapping. Tony unfortunately passed away recently. And I invite you, if you're on a PC, to get something called free, F as in Frank, R-E-E-M-I-N-D, Free Mind. I'm going to type that in here. And it's free, that's why it's called Free Mind. For those of you on a Mac, Apple product, which is what I'm on, there's X Mind, like the letter X, Mind. There are free and paid versions of these. These are digital mind mapping tools. And Jim and Dean and Ruben have all watched me take notes. This is how I think. My head thinks in these neural networks and in these programming modes. And maybe at some point, if you want to, we can have a separate class on mind mapping and thought dumping. On your iPhone, I don't know if it's available on anything other than an iPhone, there is an app called iThoughts. Now, I live in iThoughts because I'm constantly got my phone and I'm constantly dictating into them. We don't have enough time for me to actually teach you mind mapping today. If you're interested in it, you can look it up. It's really getting things out, getting them down, brainstorming, and then it's completely dynamic and lets you move things around. There isn't a book that I've written. There isn't a screenplay that I've written. There isn't a program like this that I haven't used this type of structuring program to put everything together first. And it all syncs and saves, and it's absolutely marvelous. So again, we begin with, you got to get it out of your head, you got to get it on paper, and and getting your thoughts down the old-fashioned way that we learned in school does not work. That is completely inefficient and ineffective for you. What I'm giving you here will change everything that you're doing. For those of you who are online that are readers, by the way, I will do my readings with all of this. And it's pretty interesting. For those of you in the business world, once we actually get back to face-to-face communications, I can tell you that I will write these down. And particularly when I was going up against opposing counsel, I had two opposing counsel watch me in a room across from the mediator, taking these notes, and literally everything. This entire 2-hour program would be one page. Think about that. One page, everything goes there. And as I was doing it, he watched and got up and walked out. And the last attorney said, I'm not going to work with somebody who thinks like that. So it's even a persuasion technique to be able to start thinking like that. Once you get things down, you want to be able to storyboard, right? You want to be able to, I'm a very visual person, and I want to be able to plot visually what's going on, the story arc, whether you follow the Pixar storyline, or you use the hero's journey, or you use My Vitruvian Square. It doesn't matter what it is. I want to be able to visually see what the arcs are. And so I encourage you to create storyboards. And you're going to laugh when I tell you how I do this. Canva, C-A-N-V-A. It is very easy using Canva to create storyboards. And it is as simple. How many of you you can't draw anything beyond a stick figure, and you're lucky if you get that, right? Yeah, Lewis, we know better, but it's, right? Many of us can't draw. And so here's the little secret, the dirty little secret I've learned with Canva that they don't even tell you. You go into Canva, you create a poster size sheet, and then you can go in and do Google image searches for whatever it is that you want for your storyboard, whatever you want your theme to be, your arc, your brand. I will never tell you to do this for publication because it's not legal, but it is perfectly legal. It's fair use to do what I'm telling you. You can right-click on the image in Google Images, copy the image, go back to Canva, and all you do is paste it there. And those images immediately go into your free Canva account as a download, and you can use Google Images to create your storyboarding and your image arc and your customer journey and the like for what you want the experience to be. You don't have to have any experience at all. For those of you who do love to draw, there are a number of apps out there. There are a number of handwriting apps for those of you who are using Apple Pencil, for example. I'm a big believer in using the iPad. There are on your phones, obviously, handwriting apps. Just get it out. Have something with you that you can wake up in the middle of the night and create these storyboards, because you want to visually show what you're doing. It is, and I learned this back at UCLA, right? It's show business. And there's a reason it's called show. You have to engage people visually with what you're doing. And then finally, one of the things that I want to pass on to you is scripting, actually writing out what it is that you want to do. You've heard a number of people here today talk to you about experts that have been doing this, you know, for decades, tell you, write out your script, write out what it is that you plan to say, if nothing else in note form. And I have found a program that I absolutely love called Fade In, F-A-D. I know that there are more professional, much more expensive script writing programs, and Fade In does it all. And it, at least last time I checked, was very inexpensive compared to anything else. If you want a free version, then I invite you to check out, I think it's lowercase, check out Celtics, I believe it's how it's pronounced. You create an online account and it allows you to download their program. It is free production, for lack of a better way to put it. It's production studio. They certainly want you to update and upgrade and upsell you to the paid version. You don't have to do that. The beauty of this, and here's why this is critical, and you'll notice that the number of times I was talking about timing, it's literally 1 page per minute. It's generally the way screenwriters think about a script. You can write something out in Word, or you can write something out in Pages, or you can use a notepad. It will not give you the timing from a production standpoint of what you're doing. And I'm a big believer that when you're using a Zoom platform, you need to be respectful of people's time. One of the things that I've chatted about with Jim and Dean and Ruben is the fact that I've seen Zoom meetings, business meetings, and I've heard people talk about Zoom business meetings that go on for hours, and there's no reason for it. And so if you're the organizer, I invite you, keep it contained, keep what you want to do. And one of the best things that I have found is scripting 1 page per minute so that you can see what you're doing. And it's amazing how it will all pop out there. So with that, again, being respectful of your time, we've got about a minute left. I told you this would be 2 hours. Does anybody have any questions at all? And if you want to talk, I can certainly unmute you and you can chat back to our presenters. Anybody have anything? Have you learned at least one new thing today that you can take out of here and learn? Has this been worth the time that we've spent? Wonderful, thank you. Thank you, Jim and Dean and Ruben, for all your time.
Thank you, Scott.
I'm looking here real quick, sorry. Thank you so much, extremely informative, totally amazing, I agree. Thank you, Sharon. The last app I mentioned was, it's Celtics, it's C-E-L-T-X, there's no I-X, it's just C as in Charlie, E-L, T as in Tom, X. Very useful, an extra mic, what does that mean? Eva, I think that was you, wasn't it? I'm gonna unmute you here. Talk to me, what do you mean?
Hello, hello, thank you so much. You absolutely awesome. Are you using an extra microphone? Or
Interesting that you say that. I have personally found through experimentation, and Jim, Dean, and Ruben can jump in here, but if you watch any of the concerts that have been taking place with all the celebrities out there, you will notice that the ones who sound the best are doing this. And so that's why I've chosen just to use the earbuds. However, I have my little trusty blue mic on hand, just a snowball, just in case.
So earbuds, okay, thank you.
I'm using earbuds. Dean, you're using the Bluetooth ones, right?
Yeah. And of
Ruben?
course, I'm not recording for it to be broadcasted.
Right.
I would go into my studio for that. But for this, earbuds or a wired is fine. I
Ruben,
don't
what
know
are
if
you
the other
using?
guys are.
I'm using the computer audio, but I do have headphones that I use. I have earbuds, and I also have a microphone. This is the
There you go.
Yeti, which seems to work, but didn't work so well today.
Well, it's okay. Jim, what are you using?
Is
Earbuds?
on mute.
Oh, got it. I will tell you, let me see if I can flip this around here. Eva, and I say this because for my podcasts, where I want better audio quality, I am using a full-blown mic recording thing with a filter on it. So
Thank you.
There's a couple other things I have. I have a sound dampener behind me right here. And so because the room that I'm in right now has wood floors, and so it could be something that's on the back wall that you don't see, like this is a sound dampener, but it could be anything that's going to absorb. It could be a piece of carpet, it could be a clothes that you don't see, but anything that's going to take sound away from echoing.
yeah, so again, and thank you, Stan. I saw your comments. That's very, very kind of you. With that, folks, again, being respectful of your time, I'm going to bring this to an end. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to package this all up. It will go exclusively on the Most Magical Secret group so that you will have that. If you have any questions, you'll be able to contact each one of our speakers individually. And I really thank you guys for doing this. It's just 2 hours out of your Sunday. Not that a Sunday means anything anymore. As far as time, I forget what day it is. And Jim, we're going to take your handout, and that'll be made available to everybody through PDF as well. And if you, pardon me, if you have any questions, you can certainly follow up within the Most Magical Secret group, because Jim, Dean, and Ruben are all members of that. And with that, folks, I'm going to bring this to a close, and thank you very much, as usual, for being you.